is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. Wednesday evening, we're getting ready for Week 16. Hopefully, you guys are in the Final Four of your fantasy league or whatever, multiple leagues, hopefully, or you guys got some best balls and some contests going into the Final Four. But anyways, what we're going to do in this video, we're going to hang out for the next, 25 minutes, 30 minutes or so. Get your questions going in the chat room. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read off a lot of the relevant player news and things like that from today, practice reports, all that. We'll kind of get that stage set for Week 16, and then I'll double back to the questions. So go ahead and get those in there. Happy Wednesday to everybody. Starting off with Zach Charbonnet, oblique. He does not practice on Wednesday. And then Kenneth Walker also not practicing on Wednesday. So not quite sure what's up with that. Both running backs not practicing. I don't think it's a great sign for Kenneth Walker. Charbonnet, maybe that's just, a day of rest kind of thing. I'm not really quite sure how to read these charts. Luckily, these guys don't play till Sunday, so we'll have more information on them tomorrow. But right now, Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, I don't have a good answer on who's going to be the starting back this week for Seattle. Good news, though, for Seattle. Geno Smith officially full today in practice. So he's on track to play. That's going to make me like starting whatever running back I can from this team, as well as JSN and DK Metcalf. So good news for Geno Smith. Glad to see him back. And then more good news at QB. Raiders' Aiden O'Connell officially full practice today. He's probably on track to start for the Raiders. And that's good news. If you guys are, holding out hope for Brock Bowers or holding out for Jacoby Myers, like you want Aiden O'Connell in at QB. So I think good news here for the Raiders. The Raiders also put Sincere McCormick on IR today. So we're going to see Amir Abdullah and Alexander Madison be the running backs going forward. They're both like low-end RB2 flexes in PPR formats. If you guys do have questions on those two, let me know. We did have Clyde Edwards-Helaire signed with the New Orleans Saints today. So he's, went to school at LSU, back in the state of Louisiana. Good for him being back with a team that really needs players at this point. So not a bad signing for them. Some guys for tomorrow night. Pat Surtain not on the injury report. He will play for the Broncos. And then Jaleel McLaughlin has been listed out. So I'm not terribly afraid of Javonte Williams. I don't know, low-end RB2 kind of flex thing. I'm going to get my rankings updated, and I'll probably move Javonte up. I'm not super excited about Javonte Williams. Let me see here. I have him right now at RB38, but with Jaleel McLaughlin ruled out, I'm probably going to end up moving Javonte up into RB33 range, something like that. So no Jaleel McLaughlin. Javonte and Audric Estime will be the lead backs tomorrow night. Good news for Cedric Tillman, who's been out with a concussion for about 3 games now. He's limited in practice today. Unfortunately, we just don't really care about the Browns passing game with DTR at QB. The Chargers have listed out Will Dissly with the shoulder. They've also listed Hayden Hurst as questionable. But if you do need a tight end, I think Stone Smart's the guy that we identified that could be your streamer. I don't really love starting, fringe guys on Thursday Night Football. But if you need a tight end, I suppose Stone Smart could be your guy. More tight end news. Zach Ertz does not practice today. I don't expect him to play this weekend. I think if you wanted a really deep end, kind of, really, really deep sleeper tight end, the rookie Ben Sinnott will be starting, I believe, for the Commanders. And they let him run the most routes and got the most snaps last week. So Ben Sinnott's the tight end that I think starts for Zach Ertz. Good news for the Chiefs. Pat Mahomes and Hollywood Brown, both full practice on Wednesday. I'm feeling pretty good about Mahomes, man. So it's Wednesday. They play on Saturday. So today's actually their Thursday. Assuming we get one more full practice of Friday, on Friday, Thursday for Mahomes tomorrow. I'm expecting the Chiefs offense to have Mahomes and probably Hollywood Brown back. I'm not going to say to start Hollywood Brown. You can pick him up if you want to, but I just don't know if we're going to trust him. He could be in for a few plays, get a few snaps in, and just get his feet underneath him. They're going to be ramping him up for the real playoffs. So good news for the Chiefs today. The head coach for the Seahawks on Kenneth Walker's injury. We're optimistic. We'll see about how many reps today, but he did walk through. We'll probably ramp it up a bit more tomorrow. So good news here. Hopefully he's going to be good to go and get more and more reps by Friday. We do have to watch out for George Pickens. Hamstring, still not practicing on Wednesday today. So very concerned about that. This team does play on Saturday. I think this probably means that he's not playing. I know I expressed some optimism that he'll play last night, but this kind of this really puts a damper on things. There's still a chance he could practice tomorrow, but it's starting to look like he's doubtful for this weekend, which is a bit of a bummer. The Steelers really need him in their passing game to be functional. So no Pickens today. No Westbrook-Ikhine for the Titans today. Not sure about his availability. Drew Lock was named the starter for the Giants, so we got that question mark out of the way. He was limited today, but they named him the starter already. No Isaac Guerendo today with that hamstring. Not overly worried. Again, Wednesday, more of a glorified walkthrough type day for a lot of offenses. The 49ers play on Sunday. If Guerendo gets eliminated in tomorrow, I'll feel better. If he misses tomorrow, I get a little bit nervous, but I'm expecting him to be fine for this weekend. Mason Rudolph was named the starter for the Titans, so that kind of, that makes me feel better about guys like Calvin Ridley, Tajay Spears, maybe Westbrook-Ikhine if he goes, but for sure Calvin Ridley, Spears, and Pollard are more interesting. The Bears are getting Roschon Johnson back this week. He was elevated to full with the concussion that he's missed the last few games. And then Jalen Waddle not practicing today. We'll see about Jalen Waddle tomorrow. Still too early to rule him out. I mentioned Sincere McCormick will be placed on IR. David Njoku not practicing today with the hamstring. I don't think he's going to play this weekend. The Browns are kind of just mailing it in for the year. No Alec Pierce either for the Indianapolis Colts today. Looks like he's got a concussion, so he's probably not going to play. And then I get to the news from last night that was really kind of surprising. Not too surprising, actually, because he hadn't been playing well. But Michael Penix Jr. is the starter for the Atlanta Falcons. I'm sure I'll get some questions on that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Excited for the Falcons, man. Excited. We got a little bit of breath of air. And so that's the majority of the news I wanted to cover. And we'll get into some of the questions. And I just want to say shout out to Scott. I saw this when I posted the video for today. He put the comment in there. So I appreciate you, Scott. Thank you for watching and listening. I appreciate you, man. You're the one of the best viewers we have here on the Fellowship, and longtime fan of the show. We appreciate you. Good evening, Scott. Good evening, Brian. Asking Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams. I am a little intrigued with Caleb Williams this week. Going against the Lions. It's in Detroit. The last time they played the Lions, that was on Thanksgiving, and the numbers actually looked okay for Caleb Williams at the end of the game. He threw for 256 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 39 yards on the ground, had a decent fantasy game in that one. One of his best fantasy games of his career, honestly. That one was in Detroit on Thanksgiving. Now we're in Chicago. I think just with the injuries and Detroit maybe, having to score a lot of points, that could be a nice point-fueled game. So I don't mind Caleb Williams, but I kind of like Anthony Richardson a little bit more, man. He's playing Tennessee, not afraid of Tennessee's defense. Anthony Richardson, his last 4 games for fantasy in a 4-point touchdown league, he's gotten 14 points, 21, 12, and 28. He's been running for touchdowns. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns in the last 4 games. I like the floor of the rushing column, and the passing numbers have looked better. He's still finding his way, but I think Richardson provides you that blend of a nice high floor, high ceiling, whereas Caleb Williams is fine. But I'm going to lean Anthony Richardson, but it's close. If you wanted to go Caleb, I'm not going to be mad about that. Denver or Buffalo defense. I did update my rankings today on the fantasyfellowship.com for members. So if you guys want to check that out, please do. I have Buffalo ranked as my 3rd defense this week behind Green Bay and Minnesota. I have Denver down at 9. So I still like Denver. It's a tough divisional game. Those are really hard to figure out. I still think they're a top 10 defense, but I'm going to lean towards Buffalo. Justin Herbert's a good player. He takes care of the ball. I would expect a decent amount of points to be scored by the Chargers in this one, whether it's 17, 20 points. Let me just look up real quick. I want to look at the game lines and see which teams are projected to score fewer points. But, man, we got Buffalo at home against New England, a rookie quarterback in Drake May. I mean, even if the Bills give up a touchdown or 2 to Drake May's offense, very good chance that there's a turnover or 2 in there. There's going to be sacks in there. The Bills are 14-point home favorites. And honestly, the Chargers, it's in LA. The Chargers are 3-point favorites at home. The Chargers are supposed to put up 24 points or 22.75 points tomorrow night. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. And honestly, I feel pretty good about Buffalo. Pick 2, full PPR. We got DJ Moore, T. Biggins, and JSN. we have been seeing better numbers from DJ Moore lately, and I'm fine with DJ Moore here, but I probably got to go with Higgins and JSN, especially with the good news that Geno Smith's probably going to be back. So I do feel a little bit more comfortable with JSN, but I'm not going to argue if you want to put DJ Moore in there. The last 5 games, he's been over double digits. He's had no fewer than 7 targets in the last 5 games. There's been a couple touchdowns in there, and they do give him some carries. So I do feel pretty safe with DJ Moore, but I'm going to go T. Higgins. I'm going to go JSN. I'm going to stick with those guys that have been pretty hot and have some big ceilings potential here. Good evening to Harris. Hope you're doing well, bud. Good evening to Jason. And Jason's coming in hot with the Flowers or Thielen in a half PPR. I kind of like both guys here. Zay Flowers, though, in that last game that they played against Pittsburgh, he went 2 for 39, and he did catch a touchdown, which was nice. But his volume is just so sporadic, man. We never know what we're getting from him. He did go 6 for 53 last weekend, which in a full PPR, that gets you what, like 8 points, which feels okay. He does have a safe floor of, 6 to 7 points. But I think Adam Thielen offers the same thing. And honestly, the odds for a touchdown with Thielen actually feel pretty good too. He's only caught 2 touchdowns on the year, but in the last 4 games for Thielen, he's had catches of 5, 9, 8, and 3. He's had basically 2 100-yard games in there. He's getting a lot of targets. I'm probably going to go with Adam Thielen here at home against the Arizona Cardinals. It's very close. Let me look at my rankings real quick, because I do have Zay Flowers ranked highly here, but I like Adam Thielen a little bit more. I think he's got a safer floor, and if not, just as much upside. Very close, though. Good question here, Harris. What are we doing with Atlanta? Kirk Cousins has been playing so bad, Harris, that I think we should view this as a positive. It's a positive for Bijan Robinson, who's going to continue to be the focal point of the offense and get all the carries that he can handle. They're playing the Giants this week, which is a nice, easy way in for Michael Penix Jr. And then next weekend they get Washington, which we're still not super afraid of that defense. But I think if you have your Atlanta guys, yeah, you're starting your Bijan, you're starting your Drake London. After that, we've kind of soured a little bit. For sure on Kyle Pitts, we've soured a little bit on Darnell Mooney, who's just got this wide range of outcomes that we can't really trust. And then you have Ray McCloud, who's just kind of a deep wide receiver 3 flex. So I'm going to continue starting Drake London and Bijan Robinson. I do think Tyler Algier has a little bit of upside in here too, as the team might lean in the run a little bit. They're playing the Giants. They're heavy home favorites in this one. 8.5 point favorites. They're supposed to score 24.75 points this weekend. I honestly, I don't really know if there's that big of a change. Kirk Cousins had been playing so bad, so the bar is very, very low for our guy, Michael Penix Jr. And people forget, man, Penix can ball, dude. He can air it out and maybe lift this passing game up a little bit. There's been 1 passing touchdown in the last 5 games from Kirk Cousins. A lot of interceptions too, not a lot of yards. He's had 2 nice yard games in that sample, but there's a chance Penix actually lifts the tide here for the Falcons. Reed or London? I'm going to stick with Drake London. I understand that there's a little bit of hesitation with Drake London here, but he's the number 1 receiver for a rookie. He's going to get his targets. Playing the Giants, I still feel pretty good about that matchup. Whereas Jayden Reed, man, Jayden Reed's been a good player all year here, but his usage has been kind of sporadic. I don't really love his ceiling much anymore. We haven't really seen a ceiling game from him in a long time. Back since week 4 was his last 20-point fantasy performance. He's only had 3 100-yard games on the year. None of those have come since week 11. So I think it's London by a safe margin for me there, Harris. I have London. Would you start him over Reed, Pickens, Addison? I think so. I have London still ranked as my wide receiver 14. I feel pretty good about that. I do have Jordan Addison ranked at wide receiver 25. I have Jayden Reed coming in here at wide receiver 35. And then George Pickens, I have him ranked in here right now in the 20s, but I'm going to probably lower him. I just don't think that just him not practicing today worries me a little bit. I don't expect him to play this weekend. So I'm going to move Pickens down. I'm ranking these guys as London, a clear tier above everybody. And then I do like Addison, Reed, and then we'll see about Pickens. Caleb Williams or Russell the Muscle Wilson. I think it's easy, man. With no George Pickens, I'm not going to risk Russell Wilson. Sure, he could get there on efficiency. He could run for a touchdown. He could throw 2 or 3 touchdowns, but he's struggled the last 2 games to throw the ball without Pickens. Only 158 yards against the Browns and 128 yards against the Eagles. I just worry that this game's in Baltimore too. The numbers are looking better for Caleb Williams the last few weeks. Like his last 2 games, even though they haven't been great, I still like what he's been able to do with his legs. Touchdowns will be there. He had a great game against Detroit. I don't think they're afraid of Detroit's defense. So I do not think Ekeler returns for the fantasy season. Let me pull that up here. So Ekeler, they put him on IR week 13, so he's out 13. They had the bye, and then 15, 16, and 17. So 4 games. He's eligible to return week 18. So even if he does play week 18, I'm not super excited to get him in my lineup, as they'll probably ease him in and get him ready for the real playoffs. So if your season ends week 17, Eckler's not playing. Rank Ford, Reed, Addison, PPR. I'm going with Jordan Addison, man. I'm going to continue riding the hot hand. He's been a really strong player the last month or so, and he's getting a lot of looks right now. His last, 5 games, these are his target totals: 9, 12, 6, 9, and 8. His fantasy totals have been great. He's had 1 game lower than 13 fantasy points, other than, he's had a 39, a 30, a 15, a 13, and a 9. So you got to go with Addison right now. He's got probably the best combination of floor and ceiling between these 3. I would go Reed number 2 and then Ford the clear 3, just because it's Cleveland and I don't really want to F with Cleveland right now. C-Dog, good evening. Pick 2, Terry, DK, Jennings, Guerrero, full PPR. If Guerrero missed practice today, I'm still projecting him to play. If Guerrero's in, I kind of want to get him in the lineup. And then with DK, we kind of have to wait and see about Geno Smith, even though he practiced in full today. So I'm expecting him to play. But Metcalf hasn't really been playing well himself either. He hasn't scored 20 fantasy points in a game since week 3. He hasn't touched more than 10 fantasy points since week 13. 5.8, 8.9, 10.6, 9.9, 14. He's got no touchdowns in the last 5 games. I'm not super in love with DK Metcalf, and I think Terry McLaurin right now is just, he's been magnificent. They played Philadelphia, though, back in week 11, and Terry only went 1 for 10 on 2 targets. So they did find a way to blanket him. So right now, I'm actually kind of thinking you play the 2 49ers. But I do think Terry McLaurin will have a better game than he did the last time these 2 teams met. I think there was a Thursday night football game. I can't remember. But I do like Juwan Jennings. He continues to be the team's number 1 receiver. He's had some down weeks over the last month or so he's not as great as he was in the middle of the year. If I'm going to rank these guys, I'm going Guerrero as long as he's healthy. I'll probably put Terry number 2. We're going to go DK and then Juwan Jennings. Ty Johnson or Douglas. We're going to go with Demario Douglas here. He's a starter. Ty Johnson's not a starter. Not going to be out there for a lot of snaps and things like that. The game could get a blowout, which could get him more opportunities, and he could be the reason why the game is a blowout if he pops a big play or 2. But you're just not getting a lot of touches out of Ty Johnson. I'm going to go with Demario Douglas, who's been a fringe wide receiver 3 flex in a lot of PPR leagues all year. CJ Stroud or the Purdy. I'm going to go Brock Purdy. His rushing upside has been good all year. He's got a healthy cast of weapons to throw the ball to right now. Good game against Miami at Miami. That could be a game that's on the fast track. A lot of points could be scored in that game here. I do like CJ Stroud, but he does have a tough matchup at KC. He really hasn't been a QB1 all season. We've seen good, performances from Purdy, especially with his rushing upside. So I'm going to go Purdy here. Good evening to Ron. We need to start one of DK, Hawk, Strange, or Kendre. Appreciate your advice. All right, man. Well, yeah, we're in the final 4. Let's see if we can get you one more round. As of today, I'm thinking Alvin Kamara is not going to play. We do have to worry, though. Packers defense looked really good against Seattle, and now we're getting the Saints coming in with, I don't know if it's going to be Rattler or Hainer, or no offensive weapons potentially. So I don't think I'm in love with Kendre Miller here. I do like TJ Hawkinson in this mix. I have Hawkinson ranked as my tight end 5 on the week here. So I do like TJ Hawkinson, but he just kind of feels like he feels like the safest play. Like if I just want to lock in my 10 points, I probably go with TJ Hawkinson. He hasn't had a lot of big games since returning to the action, so I don't think it's him. I think you're probably going to start DK Metcalf in this situation. If I'm ranking these guys, I will go DK, Hawk, Kendre, and then Strange. I'll stick with DK Metcalf. He's still been around 10 points. I feel pretty safe about his floor. And if he does catch a touchdown and have a big game, he's probably got the biggest ceiling here. I think in week 16, I'm looking for ceiling more so than safe, 8 to 10 point floors. And good evening, Mr. Magic. Bengals D or Falcons? The first one, let's get that one out of the way here. Bengals D or Falcons? I have the Falcons ranked as number 4 this week, and I have the Bengals ranked as number 5. I like both defenses. Drew Lock starting for the Giants, I think, is a little bit of a plus. I might actually go ahead and move the Cincinnati Bengals up. The Bengals have a little bit of momentum right now. They're playing good offense for sure. They still have an outside hope to make the playoffs. They have to win out and need a lot of help. But they're playing Cleveland. This one's in Cincinnati. I'm overall not too terrified of this Dorian Thompson-Robinson offense. So I'm going to switch Cincinnati up. I'll go Cincinnati over Atlanta. Kyler Murray or Jaden Daniels. I think you kind of got to stick with Jaden Daniels here. Let me look at his numbers the last time these two teams played. And he did not play well. He threw for 191 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and 18 yards rushing. Still got his 13 points, but ever since that game, he's put up points, 30 fantasy points, 27 and 23. I think he's a different player. It's a little bit different offense. Terry McLaurin's humming. They got a lot of things that they can pull out of the hat for this one. So I'm going to stick with Jaden Daniels. Kyler Murray, I still like Kyler Murray, but he's been pretty disappointing the last month or so. He hasn't scored more than 20 fantasy points since week 10. I think Kyler Murray's the safe play. I'm going to go for Jaden Daniels and try to hit that 27 to 30 point play, though. And then between Spears and Abdullah, I do like the addition of Mason Rudolph for the Titans offense. I think he can help lift some guys, whether it's Ridley, Spears, Tony Pollard, maybe even one of the tight ends. So I'm a little interested in Tajay Spears, but I'm going to lean Amir Abdullah, who, with Sincere McCormick being placed on IR, we've seen that when Abdullah gets the opportunities, he's been very efficient and very productive. He had 7 catches last week. He does have a lot of games where he catches the ball a handful of times. He's got 3 receiving touchdowns in the last 5 games, and he'll be in the mix for carries too. Probably 7 to 10 points there out of Abdullah. And I get it. Tajay Spears scored the touchdowns last weekend, but I'm going to lean Abdullah a little bit, but I won't be upset if you go with Spears. Good evening, David. We picked up Strange, blocking my opponent who's starting smart up into my 1. Feels like I already won. Yeah, that's definitely off to a good start. So Brenton Strange he's probably the tight end pickup of the week. And, seeing the 12 targets that he caught last week, I have Brenton Strange ranked pretty highly in my rankings this week. I got him at tight end 10. So you're stopping your guy from getting a player that I felt pretty good about. I have Stone Smart ranked at tight end 18. So, you might have shaved off a few points from this match alone. So if you already feel confident and you're doing the correct chess moves here, this is a master class here by David. Mac Jones or Mason Rudolph this week in a Superflex leagues, or could I put Zay Flowers in that spot? You could put Zay Flowers in that spot. I have to start Mac Jones in one of my dynasty leagues that I'm trying to defend a title in. So I have a little bit of a bias towards Mac Jones. He has not looked great in games that he started until last week. The one game where he blew up, he came in relief for Trevor Lawrence. But otherwise, these are his 4 starts. He's gotten 5 points, 4 points, 5 points, and then the 18.66 last week. So I do like the matchup for Mac Jones. I'm open to Mason Rudolph a little bit, but I just, don't really know what I'm getting. But in his 3 starts, he's gotten 15, 17, and 19. I think you probably play Mason Rudolph. He's got a better track record. He's got 4 games where he's played substantial amount, and these are his totals: 9.9, 19, 17, and 15. I feel fairly safe with that range of outcomes, that he's gonna be somewhere between 15 and 18 points. I think Mason Rudolph is probably the guy that I would play, and I do have Mason Rudolph ranked here at 25, which is 1 above Mac Jones. So I'm going to go Mason Rudolph here. I do like Zay Flowers, but we haven't really seen much out of Zay Flowers in a while. And his floor is pretty low. We've seen some really big games out of Zay, but lately, the last month, 11, 10, 11, 11, 7, haven't had that boom game since week 9. So I'm going to lean Mason Rudolph. Yikes. I think he practiced in full today, which was a surprise. So I think he's playing. He's got to stay healthy. That's the thing, is they allowed a lot of sacks. Hopefully they can keep him upright in this one. I think the matchup's good. Teams do throw the ball a lot on Minnesota. So maybe we get a good boom game out of the Geno Smith in the passing game for Seattle. Hunt or Abdullah? I'm probably going to go with Amir Abdullah. I still like Kareem Hunt. It was nice to see the carries come into his column last weekend, but we're flipping a touchdown here, or otherwise we're getting 3 or 4 or 5 points. So I think you go with Abdullah in this case. He's been pretty effective when he gets the call. A-Rod or Caleb Williams? I think you go with Aaron Rodgers in this one. I do have Aaron Rodgers ranked as my QB 17. I got Caleb at 18. I think that Rams-Jets game could be kind of fun. And Rodgers still has, they're still playing for their pride. We saw that last weekend against Jacksonville, and he had probably the best fantasy game that he's had in the last 3-4 years. So he still got it. I'm going to go on Aaron Rodgers. And good evening to Charlene. White or Bucky? We're going Bucky. Bucky's healthy. Bucky looks good. Bucky against Dallas, we're going Bucky. You can add Hollywood Brown, but keep in mind, they got 4 wide receivers that they run in snaps and routes every week. I would expect maybe Marquise is out there for maybe 10 routes this week. Not really usable for fantasy. You're fishing for a touchdown. And then even next week when he does return, they're still going to be ramping him up. I would probably just let somebody else get Hollywood Brown. If I'm projecting where I'm going to rank him next week, probably pretty low. Honestly, I'm not super excited about the usage potential. They're still going to use Worthy and Hopkins, and they got Juju in there. So at best, I see Marquise as maybe the wide receiver 4 next week. Probably not going to add Marquise. It doesn't look good for George Pickens. He didn't practice today. He's been off for a long time, and they play on Saturday. So this was a big day for him to practice. There's a chance he could practice tomorrow and he could be out there, and that would be fine. But as of right now, I think it looks doubtful. Demario Douglas or Alexander Madison. In this one, I'll probably go. I'm going to stick with Demario Douglas. He's been more dependable, I would say, this year. We really don't know what we're getting out of Madison every week. He did fumble the ball last week too. I'll take my 10 points with Demario Douglas here. CJ Stroud or Mac Daddy Jones. We're going to go CJ Stroud. We're going to stick with Stroud. Stashing Penix. I think if you're in a Superflex league, yeah, you should probably add Michael Penix. This is the week to actually probably play Michael Penix, just because there's a little bit of air of mystery here. They're playing the New York Giants, which I like. And I think the Falcons kind of want to show it off that, hey, we were right with this pick. And maybe we see Penix throw a couple touchdowns and look good doing so. So I would stash Penix if you can. Maybe not to start this week, but you do have that option next week if he looks good. Daniels or Murray? We got that question earlier, Charlene. I'm going with Jayden Daniels. I'm going to dance with who got me here. Kyler Murray, I still like the upside here, but he just doesn't have that 25, 27, 30-point upside ceiling that Jayden Daniels does. The division's kind of on the line here. Washington can still make a comeback and win that division if things fall their way, so I expect them to not go down without a fight and for them to play better than we last saw them against the Eagles. So I wouldn't classify Justice Hill as a handcuff. He is a complementary player. He is the third down receiving back. He's not a handcuff. So if you're just looking for the injury handcuff, it's Corum. If Derrick Henry were to get hurt, which Derrick Henry just doesn't get hurt. I mean, he's kind of just a bulletproof tank at this point. So Justice Hill's going to remain that third down guy. If Henry gets hurt, I don't think they're going to give Justice Hill 15 carries. They're going to mix in some other guys and figure some things out. So I would probably hold on to Corum, who, if Kieran goes down, we're all starting Corum next week and feeling pretty good about it. Good evening to Daniel. Pick one, Marvin, Hopkins, Madison. I'm going with Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not a big believer in Madison. We're trying to flip a touchdown there, and I know we're kind of trying to flip a touchdown with both Hopkins and Marvin Harrison Jr., but Marvin gets that nice matchup against the Carolina Panthers. Tough matchup on paper for DeAndre Hopkins, and his usage is weird. Sometimes he's the number 2 receiver in route. Sometimes he's the number 4. I don't expect Mahomes to be fully 100% healthy. Maybe they don't throw the ball as much. I'm going to say Marvin Harrison Jr. here is the one I'm looking for. Yeah, we like Cincinnati. They are my defense number 4 this week. So Pollard's been weird, man. They've used him so much this year. I think they really don't care if he practices. And I mean, he didn't practice much of not at all last week, and he still got 17 carries against Cincinnati, still found his way to the end zone. I like the matchup against the Colts. He did go 17 for 93 yards and a touchdown back in week 6, so it's a good matchup for him. I expect him to play. I haven't heard anything that would make me think otherwise. So we'll see. He's played through injuries all year. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, we'll kind of raise an eyebrow, but as of right now, I'm expecting Pollard to play. And yeah, half PPR, we're going to stick with Marvin Harrison Jr. I think he's your best chance at a touchdown. It's Demario Douglas. We really can't trust Amari Cooper right now. I mean, he's kind of like 4th in the pecking order for routes. They run a lot of Keon Coleman, a lot of Mac Hollins, a lot of Shakir, and then, Cooper's kind of the 4th guy right now, and I don't really want to trust that. I like the matchup, of course, and we're hoping for a Josh Allen touchdown or something, but the volume's not really there. I'll take the 10 points with Demario Douglas. Pick one handcuff, Miller or Taylor. It's Kendre Miller, and it's not close. I think he's not even a handcuff anymore. I think he's the starting running back for the Saints for the next 2 weeks and probably week 18. Patrick Taylor, he's still behind Isaac Guerendo, and I know Guerendo missed practice today, but I would expect Guerendo to play this week and Miller to be the starting running back for the Saints the next 3 games to finish the year. We decided to go with Love over Herbert, but I picked up Kincaid for tight end. Good. Kraft is available, but not sure of his use. What do you think? I think we talked about this a little bit last night. Jordan Love over Herbert is kind of the easy thing for me to say. Even though they could, blow this game out, there's a good chance that Love does toss 2 or 3 touchdowns in that one. So I think Love is the answer on Monday night. And then for tight end, I think it's Kincaid. It was his first game back, and they threw the ball to him 7 times. I think Tucker Kraft is still a guy that doesn't get a lot of targets. I'm going to rank Kincaid slightly ahead. Actually, I have Kincaid at tight end 11, Kraft at tight end 9. So if you want to have fun, I think it's more fun to do the stack. You could go Tucker Kraft against the Saints. I think I'm fine with it. It's still a coin flip, and it's kind of a gut call. I will lean Tucker Kraft and stack him with J Love. And hey, no problem, Charlene. We have been going on for about 33 minutes, guys and gals. So we're probably going to get out of here for the evening. If you guys do have any final questions, I will be going live tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. We'll cover everything that you guys need and go over the day's practice reports and get you guys set up for Thursday Night Football in Week 16. I will be going live Sunday morning this weekend too to kind of set the stage for everything and go over the actives. And I might even get a video out there on Friday just doing some final practice report updates. I tend not to get worried about what my opponent's doing all the time because sometimes that leads to me making wrong moves. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is your best play, then you play Marvin Harrison Jr. And I know he's been up and down, but if the better Kyler Murray plays, the better Marvin Harrison Jr. probably plays too. So you're likely attached to him. And if Kyler Murray does bad, that's a good thing for you. Marvin Harrison Jr. can still get his fantasy points. So I'm probably just going to stick with Marvin Harrison Jr. I wouldn't worry too much about having Kyler on the other side. Because if Kyler blows up and you didn't play Marvin because of that, that's going to suck. If Kyler plays bad, Marvin can still get his 8 to 10 points and you still feel good about what you did. So I would stick with Marvin. And then AJB, I think he's fine. They've been pretty cautious with guys, and it's Wednesday still, so I'm not going to read too much into it. I think it's just kind of an easy day for him. But anyways, guys, again, we'll be live tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. I hope everybody has a good rest of their Wednesday night. Take it easy, and thank you for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Peace. Got me feeling icy.